So along with me, I have Kavita Lobo, who leads the community of practice team and group coaching for ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter along with me. We also have Devrajan Iyer, who is helping us with the admin and tech, and he is also the treasurer of ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. And he is part of the management committee, and he wears multiple hats, and he's also the ambassador of community of practice team and group coaching. All three of us are ICF PCC coaches. Just a few hygiene pointers before we begin. Kindly keep yourself off the camera and be on mute. This is just to avoid any kind of disruption that may happen in the transmission because of the bandwidth issue. During the session, if you have any question, you can put it in the chat box and Kavita will share that with the speaker, or she'll curate it to be answered towards the end of the session. And we also request all the participants to come on camera for the group photo before we start the Q&A session. And we'll also launch a quick feedback poll post the Q&A session. People who would want to claim the CCUs, please, there'll be a link which will be shared on the chat box. Request them to fill up their name as they would want it to appear on the certificate. And also mention the correct email ID so that it can be posted to you. We also invite all the participants to be there post the session for about 10 minutes for a quick networking. So let's get straight into the topic. So our today's topic is group coaching framework in action. Group coaching is increasingly becoming popular, and it provides client an advantage of a reduced cost and a shared learning experience. And for the coaches, the ability to reach more people and significantly scale up their revenues. So our learning goal for today is acquire an understanding of the group coach's role in a session, difference between group and team coaching, reflect on how we want to move from one-to-one to group coaching, learn effective group coaching techniques. So today's expert speaker is Dominique Mas, and she has graciously agreed to share her knowledge and wisdom on group coaching with all of us. So before I hand over the stage to her, a brief about Dominique Mas. Dominique is leadership and executive coach and a co-founder of the Group Coaching HQ, an ICF accredited group coaching training program and community. A lifelong learner, she is fueled by her extensive career in the educational leadership, living and working in Europe, Asia, and US. As the head of coaching and curriculum, Dominique created group coaching program for Fortune 100 companies, recruited and trained the team coaches. She has advised companies on building their own group coaching program and trained hundreds of coaches in the art of group coaching. Passionate about creating engaging growth opportunities for individuals and the group, she uses the Hogan assessment and visual thinking technique in her training and coaching, and she's certified Lego Serious Play facilitator and coach. Dominique brings a wide scope of knowledge from her education. She holds a master's degree in education leader and change, and is an ICF PCC and ICF certified mentor coach, a Hogan assessment certified coach, and she's trained with the Neuro Leadership Institute. A fun fact about Dominique. Dominique is a surfer and adventurer, and she lives a peaceful life in Brooklyn, New York, with her partner, the artist Suze Pino, and the awesome dog, Professor. So over to you, Dominique. We are eagerly waiting to hear you.
Thank you so much, Sagarika, for this introduction. And thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation. So I usually start with asking people to high five the camera when I make a couple of statements. I'm not going to see you today do that. So what I'd love to do is I'm going to put my view to show non-participants. So I'm going to ask you to use the reactions button, and I will be able to have a sense of who is in the room. So I'd love for you to use the thumbs up button as I ask these questions. So my first question for you is, give me a thumbs up if you have never coached a group before. Okay, we have a few people here. Great. Okay. Next one. Give me a thumbs up if you currently coach groups or have coached groups in the past. Got a few here. Beautiful. Thank you. My next question is, give me a thumbs up if you are excited about learning about coaching groups? Beautiful. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up here. I'm glad, because that means you are in the right place today. So with that, I'm going to get straight into it. And what I'd love to start with is sharing a little bit of a difference between groups and teams. A lot of people use group coaching and team coaching interchangeably. However, they are very different. And for the purpose of today, I'll focus mostly on groups. And so I want to make sure that we have a good understanding of what the difference is. So I'm going to share my screen for a second, and I'm hoping everybody can see it. I'll start with a little bit more about teams first. So when we're thinking about a team, we're really thinking about a full entity. We're really thinking about a group of people who are working together and they have a common objective, which means that their individual goals, their individual desires are second to the team's objective. And as a team coach, a lot of time you might be focusing on working through team relationships, working through team processes, the way that they support each other, the way that they come together to really focus on that one objective. So their individual strengths are really used towards the common good. When we're thinking about group coaching, which is where we're going to focus more today, we're thinking about individuals who sometimes know each other, but a lot of times don't necessarily know each other. They come together because they have a common context or a common situation. So they might all be going through a career or a life transition, or perhaps they're all women in the C-suite, or perhaps they're all emerging leaders in a larger company. So they come together with that shared context, but they're all here to work on themselves. So they're really here to work on their own individual objectives. So here, versus the coach working to get the dynamic of the team to be more cohesive, we're really thinking in group coaching about coaches allowing peers and everyone in the group to be curious with each other and to support and eventually challenge the growth of each individual in the group. So I'm going to pause here in terms of teams and group coaching, and I'll stop sharing my screen for a second. The next thing that I want to touch on is moving from one-to-one to groups, because a lot of times I see a lot of coaches come into our programs and think that they have to start from scratch when they're learning about group coaching. That's not true. The experience in group coaching is very much like a one-on-one coaching relationship. First of all, it has to be co-created. Your relationship is, everything is done together with the group. And so one of the most important things that you can do to get started, just like you would do in a one-on-one coaching engagement, is actually explain what coaching is, what coaching isn't. So really to educate people so that when they come into the group, they understand what their role is, they understand how to be in a group coaching session. So in one-on-one, you might explain the difference between coaching and therapy. You might explain that you're not here to give them advice, exactly same sort of thing. There are a few things that I like to say to my groups, or to even most of the time I'll meet my participants one-on-one before the group even begins. And so when I tell them a little bit about the coaching process, one of the things that I think is really important to point out is that silence for some people can be very awkward. So when you're in a one-on-one situation as a coach, one of your gifts to a participant or to the person you're coaching is silence, right? Is giving them the space to reflect and think. And it's the same thing in a group, but most people are not used to being in silence with a group. And so they can find that really awkward. So I always explain, some people need a little more time to process. So silence might feel awkward. You'll get used to it. Make sure that you give everyone that time to process. The other thing that I like to say is the experience is co-created. So it's about you asking and taking what you need and what you want. So how will you make sure as an individual that you are taking from this group what you need and giving the group in order to contribute? What I tend to do before a group begins is actually to teach them coaching skills. So I'll teach them, I'll spend a half hour as a group doing a little orientation. Here's how you ask powerful questions. Here's how you ask, how you listen deeply instead of giving advice. And that means that when they're coming into the group, they already have a sense of what it means to come in with a coaching mindset. And it means that I can then just get into the group. I'll share a little bit more about forming the group, but then we can actually get into the meat of coaching. What changes when you go from a one-on-one to a group is that you as a coach are no longer the only thought partner. You have to think about it in this way. If you have a group, let's say, of people going through a career transition, perhaps you've been through a career transition. Most of us who are coaches actually have been through a career transition. So perhaps you have been through a career transition. So you might ask certain questions with the perspective of someone who's been through that and is now in their new career. Everyone else in the group is still in that same context. And so the questions that they ask of each other sometimes might be more relevant to them than the questions that you might ask. So when you're moving from one-on-one to coaching a group, you're no longer the only person in the room who's asking the questions. And in fact, I would encourage you all to make a lot of space for group members to ask each other questions, to connect. And hopefully you'll see some of that when we move into the demo part of this session today. It's important to leverage the group's wisdom. So ensuring that there are moments where you'll ask the group, what's coming up for everyone? What are we hearing from each other? And for those of you who have been part of different groups, whether it's a team at work or whether it's perhaps you have been part of a coaching group, you know that hearing the experiences of others who are going through a similar situation is extremely beneficial. It allows us often to see ourselves through the eyes of others. So the way someone might articulate something for how they're feeling or how they're processing something is often where the aha comes from for others in a group coaching session. So one thing that we always say that you need to do as a group coach is leave your ego at the door, because at the end of the day, you're not there to perform. So this is not the Dominique show, this is the group's show. And I need to be okay with saying, okay, this is not about me. I'm going to trust that the group can grow and learn from each other's wisdom. And that's what I'm there to guide them through. The next thing I want to talk about, and I'll be very quick so that we can get into our demo, is around creating psychological safety. When we're moving into groups and for teams, it's the same thing. Trust is the number one element that will allow everybody to feel that they can be open, they can be vulnerable, they can feel that they are being true and being authentic. If you think of a one-on-one coaching session, right, we have a whole ICF competency around trust and co-creating the relationship. Same thing with a group. The best thing that you can do to do that with a group is to co-create norms. So at the very beginning, how would you like to work together? What's important to each of you? And there are lots of different ways to do that. Today in the demo, you'll see me share 3 norms that are important to me in any group coaching session. And then you'll see me ask the group what else might be important to them. So we won't take a ton of time just because it's a very short demo, but that process will be part of it. And then in order to help continue to create that psychological safety, our role is also to notice any blocks that the group might have, any potential dynamic that are not healthy, where someone might be playing, for example, the rescuer, right? The person who always wants to tell everyone that, hey, it's okay to feel like this, and you have so many excuses, and like, or someone might come in with a persecutor mindset, right? If you think of the Cartman drama triangle, they might come in and say, well, why didn't you do it this way? Or why didn't you try this? Or what would be really important for you to do in this moment is X. So if you notice these type of behaviors showing up in the group, one of the things that's going to be really important is to be, first of all, to be aware of them, but also to be able to deal with them in the moment, diffuse these behaviors, and bring back that trust and that safety. Otherwise, nothing can happen in a group. Okay, I'm going to pause here because there's a lot that I would love to touch upon, but I want to make sure that we have time for the demo, because I think that's often where the most important ahas come from. And then we'll have a Q&A after, so we'll continue to answer questions. So I know we have some volunteers. I would love for our volunteers to come on camera.
Kavita, would you like to invite the volunteers?
Yes.
Anju being one of them. I don't know if Anju is there. Anju, are you there?
Okay, I don't know whether Anju is here, but Cyrus, would you please come on camera? Vibhu?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And I think we have a spot for one more volunteer. So I think we'll just call out in the group if somebody would like to.
I would like to join.
Yeah.
Who's
Cyrus,
that?
you're already there, right? Who's that? Okay, that is Selva. Selva? Yeah, Selva
Yes.
raised his hand, yes. Please come on camera, yes. We'll put a spotlight on you, and you'll be part of the process. So that's
perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, Selva, I'm going to ask you to put your hand down. Your hand is raised. Your digital hand is raised at the moment. So if you could lower it, that'd be helpful. And I'm going to ask everyone else, just for the time of the demo, so about 20-25 minutes or so, not to use the chat while we're in demo, just because I might ask participants to use the chat. So I want to be able to see very quickly what's coming up in it. So for now, welcome everyone. Let me make sure I am Vibhu. Is that how you pronounce your name? Perfect. Wonderful. I want to make sure I'm being conscious of that. Okay. I am going to get started with our norms for today. And as I mentioned earlier, usually I would take a lot more time to create those norms with the group, but just for today, 3 things that I want to bring up that are extremely important to me, and I'm going to put them in the chat here. One is confidentiality. Although I know for today's session, we have a lot of listeners. Usually I would say, whatever happens in this group stays in this group. It's like, Las Vegas rules. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. This is what it is here. No advice giving, especially today. We're all coaches. We know better than to give advice. So I'm going to ask that you don't give advice. And if I hear at any time that there is advice showing up, or perhaps that you might ask a question in a way that is a little advicey, then I might pull you back from that. And the last thing I'll ask of you is that you get curious with each other. We're all here to support each other. We're here to grow together. And so I would love for you all to ask each other questions. Be curious with yourself. I'm going to ask you to do an exercise that might not be comfortable for all of you. Get yourself out there. This is a moment to experiment together. With that, any other norms or anything else that would help you feel comfortable and open in our conversation today? Vibhu, you're good. Cyrus, anything else?
I'm good.
Salva, how about you? Okay, and Selva, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself so that you can just stay off mute the whole time,
Yeah,
unless there's terrible noise. Thank you. Unless there's terrible noise in the background, let's stay off mute so that we can just jump into the conversation.
Sure.
Okay, let's, for now, think about our topic for today. And I set the topic, which I might usually set it with the group, but our topic for today is exploring our growth edge as a coach. So exploring our growth edge as a coach. And I'll put that in the chat as well so that you can always refer to it. And what I'd love for us to start with is a little bit of downtime, a little bit of a grounding moment. And for that, I'll ask you to feel free to, for now, go off camera or not, but I'll ask you to close your eyes if you're comfortable. We're going to do a little bit of a visualization exercise. If you prefer not to, for some people, visualization doesn't work. So I'm always happy for people to grab a pen and paper, draw, make some notes, whatever works for you. But I'll lead it as a visualization exercise. All right, so if you're ready and comfortable, you can feel free to sit nice and tall. Let your hands go down, and you might have them on your lap, or you might have them alongside your body, wherever feels good for you. And I invite you to lower your gaze, and if you feel comfortable doing so, feel free to close your eyes. And take a deep breath in through the nose, and then slowly exhale it out through the mouth, starting to feel your body relax. I know it's been a long day for some of you, and this might be the first moment you get to actually pause. So let's take a second, even deeper breath in. And as you exhale, let any tension in your body release. And we'll take a final third breath in. Exhaling out with ease, feeling all your muscles relaxing further. I'll invite all of you, whether you're on camera or not, if you're not a participant in the demo too, to imagine that it's later tonight and you're in your bedroom, you're about to go to sleep. You slowly get into bed, think about your day, you appreciate what went well today, recognize yourself for your achievements. And you lay your head on the pillow and then you go to sleep. And slowly, slowly you start to wake up. It's morning. And you notice that you are somewhere in the future. And that you've grown as a coach. And that you're exactly where you want to be. In your work, in your business, you are confident, you have incredible clients. And whatever growth you wanted to experience, you notice that you have experienced it and you're exactly there. I'd love for you to take a moment and notice what's around you. Notice how you know that you are this coach that you have wanted to grow into. What is different? What has changed? Really embody that version 2 of yourself, or version 3 perhaps, as a coach. How does it feel in your body to be this person? Notice if there's anyone around you, and if so, what is the impact on them of you achieving this? What is the impact in other areas of your life of you showing up in this way of confidence, of trust that you are exactly where you need to be. Notice what else is made possible because you've achieved this. Take it all in. And enjoy that moment. And when you're ready, take another nice deep breath in, really breathing in that achievement. And then letting go of anything that no longer serves you. And when you're ready, and only when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes and we'll be in silence for just a minute. And I'd love for you to write down anything that came up, anything that you feel is important to note down in this moment for yourself. Now be quiet for just a few seconds as you write this down. And the next thing I'd love for you to write down is, what would you like to take away from today's session together? What would you like to leave with? And I'd love for everyone to share one thing that came up for them. So one thing that is important for you to grow, thinking about your growth edge as a coach, and what it is that you'd like to take away from the session. As everybody is sharing, I'd love for you all to listen to each other, really listen deeply, listen for the themes that are common to the three of you, listen to each other to see perhaps there are questions that are coming up that you'd like to ask each other. So we'll start by opening it up so that we hear from each of you, and we'll give each of you 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll open the conversation to all four of us. So why don't we start with Bibu? Why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so Dominique, it was very interesting and very surprising as to what I'm visualizing. I just let it flow. And what I'm expecting, I don't know. But what I'm seeing is very surprising in terms of the clientage, the groups and individuals that are impacting, and surprisingly, I'm seeing teaching the subject rather than in addition to practicing it. So these are the things that, in visualization has taught me new things. So I'm still sinking in those surprises.
Beautiful. So I'm hearing like taking the next step in a way, teaching versus practicing.
Not a step, rather. So I was then visualizations coming in that way.
Beautiful. Thank you. Cyrus, how about you? What came up for you?
So what came up for me was very interesting. It was like achievement of a much higher level of happiness, and how did I achieve it? It was me being much more calm, much more relaxed, much less of sensations, as you rightly said, what's happening, what could have happened in your body. So much lower, or probably the level of butterflies in your stomach was too less, so that it makes you a lot more calm person. That also makes you a very good listener. And my takeaway from this session would be, in group coaching, how would you actually pay attention, or will it be nice to write down notes, or how do you be so attentive if the group is, say, more than 5 people? You'll be listening to all of them, and how would you keep a track of who's at what level and how they would be doing? So I'll be more interested in knowing that.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that in a little while. For now, what I'm going to ask you to do for the three of you, those of you who are observing, different story. For the three of you, I'm going to ask you to stay with being a participant in this group coaching session. So take away your coach hat, and really enjoy being a participant and thinking about yourself and thinking about your own growth as a coach. That's where we're going to focus. And then once we close the demo, we'll put our coach hat back on, and then we'll answer those questions. Thank you so much, Sarah. So a lot of what I heard, and I heard it in your voice too, is a level of calmness that allows you to be perhaps more present. I'm putting words in your mouth, but perhaps more present, to have that deep level of listening. I appreciate that. Thank you. Selva, how about you? What came up, and what are you taking away?
I visualized spreading the horizons of my scope as a coach, as I do mainly the individual coaching, visualizing the group coaching in the future, impacting more lives, and impacting more positive changes on the people, and a sense of inner satisfaction, my own ability to do that in a bigger scale than where I am, and that kind of brings me happiness and a kind of peace. This is what I visualized. Yes.
Beautiful, thank you. And is there a specific thing that you'd like to take away for yourself from this session?
Yes, my takeaway is how to make the group coaching effective. In the individual coaching, we see the patterns, and we.
I'm going to pause you here. I'm going to pause you here because we're going back into the coach hat. I'm going to take away the coach hat, and I'm going to keep you in participants who wants to impact people more positively, the happiness piece. And let's stay with that for now as we're doing this demo. So in that respect,
yeah, my takeaway is to learn the ability to coach group coaching. That I would like to take away. Yes.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you all so much. I'm wondering what you're hearing in your shares of who you are as a coach, and that when you're exploring that growth edge for yourself, what are some common themes that you are hearing from each other?
I think common theme personally I'm hearing is ability to or able to impact others, and also the inner satisfaction which brings us as a coach. This I kind of, if I'm not mistaken, my observation on others too.
Dominique and others, my observation seems like the why is clear as to what we want to do is also clear. It seems like possibly how to reach there. That is possibly a question. And one more thing is, currently all of us are looking at a much larger visualization that possibly we would have imagined ourselves without the visualization. That's another pattern that I see.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Cyrus, anything you'd like to add here?
So very happy, and it's great to see the most common theme it still is to serve others. So I say it's an amazing thing that all of us are visualizing with a possible common theme, which is still to continue to serve others.
And I wonder, so as we're exploring together today, what makes the how important when you have this why? So the why seems to be the impact on others. I also heard a couple of you share happiness and like inner satisfaction was important. What makes the how so important in this moment?
I think this is where we are exploring from where we are now towards the future, how to go there where we want to be.
For me, it is like, sorry, Selva, have you done or I just paused in?
Go on, please.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So for me, it was like, be more specific, because what Silva has said, starting from now, envision where the future is. I also understand that, during my envisioning that, just flow and just trust the time and you will reach there. But another rational mind is talking about the specificity as to what what will it take, what needs to be done, and what actions has to be taken.
Yeah, thank you, Vibhu.
So for me, I think not thinking too much into the how right now, because I think eventually it will fall in place step by step. So too much of thinking would lead to too much of anxiety. So I think I would be pretty well positioned, in going step by step, not worrying too much on the how, because eventually it will fall in place. Of course, it matters, but not actually digging too deep into it right now.
So I'm wondering, as we're hearing these different perspectives, what questions are coming up that you have for each other?
I don't have a question, but I got an answer what Cyrus has said. And this was useful for me. And what he said is too much thinking, leading too much anxiety, possibly that's the space I was in. So I'd rather say that, this is an emerging learning for me.
Because see, growth eventually, it comes in all of our lives. It just comes. I mean, of course, I mean, there could be different definitions of growth, because then you could have growth in a particular time frame, or you could have growth on different parameters. So very clearly, I mean, exploring your growth edge as a coach is like a complete open-ended thing. Now, how would you fine-tune your growth, or how soon you would like your growth to be, in what time frame, or setting your own parameters for yourself, would all be dependent on so many factors. So it would just create too much of I wouldn't say confusion, but definitely too much of overthinking you might just get involved in, if you just go so straight into the how entirely, because eventually growth is going to happen. You are on the growth path. It's going to happen step by step.
I think the theme is arising in my mind, hearing from both Vibhu and Cyrus. It's a kind of, we know that we want to be there and we know that growth will happen, but how do we make that possible? What is the structure we are going to put in place? What is the kind of actions we are going to take, which will help us to reach where we want to reach? So my mind is thinking around that actionable items, that what we need to do.
Thank you, Selva, and thank you all. I'm going to pause us here only because of timing for today. What I'd love to ask each of you is, even in this very short time, what's a small takeaway for you? And what's perhaps something that you want to commit to doing for yourself in the next couple of days to continue this reflection for yourself? And whoever is ready first can can share out loud.
So I'm clear about it. So from the last few days, I was feeling very overwhelmed, and possibly this space has provided me two things. Number one, more clarity about during the process of envisioning, little more clarity, while this is too big. So that is one. And second is what Cyrus just hinted about, which theoretically knowing, but possibly it has come to me at a very right time, is about creating your own pressure on yourself by overthinking. So let it go with the flow. So these two things
Thank you.
has created this space has created for me.
Thank you. Is there a small action that you'd like to commit to for yourself?
Yeah, so just go with the flow.
Thank you, Vibhu. Cyrus or Selva, who'd like to go next?
Well, I think the takeaway for me is kind of clarity I'm getting. Before in objective of group coaching, I was more of internalizing the thoughts and building my own stories. But I think now I get a kind of clarity by speaking up and listening to others. The actions I will commit is to have some timeline and some defined goal. That is what I commit to do in the next few days, so then I can work towards that. Yes.
Thank you, Selva.
Thank you.
Cyrus, how about you?
So on the how side, it's very interesting. Either you can have, one goal set for a particular time frame and keep working towards that goal. Or you could have the way I usually do things, and I intend to do that even as a takeaway from this session, is have a one larger goal with a time frame and have very small goals continuously. It could be daily, it could be weekly, or it could be monthly, to try as far as possible, not to have a spillover to the next time frame, and continuously just keep, working towards it, so that, ultimately you just have to look at the next 2 or 3 smaller goals rather than, create too much of thinking of the much larger goal as to how would you achieve it. So yeah, that's my takeaway.
Thank you. And what's your small action that you'd like to commit to?
So yeah, I'm gonna write it down. I have my daily habit of journaling my thoughts. So I think possibly it's a great thing which I learned today. So I'm gonna write it down and possibly, yeah.
Thank you. And I want to thank you all. We're going to close this part of the session for now. I want to make sure that we have enough time for the debrief. But again, I want to thank you all for being so open, so willing to put yourselves out there. I know usually we have confidentiality. This time we have quite a few people observing. So I'm really grateful for you being willing to go through the experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And what I'd like to do, thank you all. What I'd like to do, I know we don't have a ton of time. So what I'd like to do is quickly take us through the process that I went through, and I'll do a quick share of why. So if we look at this one-off session suggested framework, and I believe you will get those slides afterwards. We spent a little bit of time on norms. We spent a little time grounding. We spent very little time here. And then we spent time on action. But the most important piece that I want to really bring your attention to as you're thinking about your own group coaching session is this part here, establishing a common vocabulary. We started by really asking everybody, well, what are the themes that are coming up? What are you hearing? And really, we were at the very start of this year. We spent maybe 10 minutes, maybe even less in this conversation. But what that allowed to happen is these themes were starting to emerge that we wanted to explore as a group. So the how versus trusting the process, the what will it take to get there. So we were just starting to get conversation going, of themes, of a common language that we wanted to explore together. So I wanted to make that very clear, because that is most possibly the most important part of a group coaching session, is coming together around a theme that will allow everyone to explore something that's important to them in that moment. If we had had much longer, I would have asked once more. I would have paused everyone. I would have asked once more, so now that we have this theme, now that we have this understanding, what would you like to get from this session? In the same way that we do in a one-on-one coaching session, where we really clearly outline the outcome that a participant or a person might want. I would do that in the group coaching session as well. Really clear intentions for everyone, and I would revisit them at the end of the session. So I'm going to pause here. I believe we need to do a photo. It's like, or you guys tell me if you want me to keep going, or if I should pause now.
You can, if there's anything for you to share more with us for a couple of minutes, and then we can call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So I will. The other thing that you will get in the slide is the previous slide, which shows a suggested framework for a sequence of sessions. So this is if you have several sessions with a group, which most of the time that is what will happen. Your first session will always be slightly different. You'll spend a little more time on norms. I always spend the first session with a group really focusing on creating deep, meaningful connections. So in session one, how will you get the participants to get to know each other very deeply, very quickly? And that can be done through asking them to answer some questions in pairs, for example, put them in a breakout and make sure that they speak to every person in the group. It might be breakouts of 2 or 3, but I like to ask questions like, and I had a group that was all about growth in their career. They were all emerging leaders and they were looking to the next step of their career. And my question to them was, what are you still trying to prove to yourself? And that opened up a whole lot of imposter syndrome issues and all sorts of things. So session one, spend time getting people to really know each other. And then you can follow this framework here for subsequent sessions. So I usually do a quick check-in, making sure that, hey, how's everyone doing? How did you do on your actions? And I time this. I give people 1 minute and I'm ruthless because you'll always have someone who rambles. So time it. So about 10 minutes, what's going on for everyone? Share your wins, share something that maybe didn't work so well for you. If we have a theme for the session, I'll usually do a little exercise, which might be journaling. Today you saw visualization, it might be a drawing, something like that around the theme so that I get them grounded. For some people, this might be the first time they have a pause in their day. So it allows them to really arrive on the session. I do a quick review of the norms if it's necessary. Maybe you have a new participant who's just joined the group, so you want to make sure that they're included in the norms, or perhaps something happened in a previous session, so you want to give everyone a reminder. Then we spend the majority of the time exploring the theme, ensuring that you establish a common vocabulary. What does it mean to everyone? As you would do in a one-on-one session, what does it mean to everyone to explore your growth edge, for example? And then I'll always end with takeaways and actions. So you should get this framework. I'm going to pause here. I know. Yes. I'm sure we have some questions. So much to talk about.
Thank you so much, Dominique and Cyrus, Silva, and Vibhu for this fantastic learning experience that all of us have gone through. So with your permission, we'll take few questions. I know we are at 7:24 right now, so we can take few questions. So while Kavita is getting ready with the questions, I'll invite Dave to take a picture for all of us. So can request all the participants to come on camera quickly so that we can take a beautiful picture.
And I see a few
Yes,
questions coming up as well.
Yes,
This is
Agurika.
happening.
So yeah. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you so much.
So now I'll request Kavita to take the Q&A section with along with Dominique. You're on mute, Kavita.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Kavita, are you there? Yeah. You're on mute.
No, Kavita is not on mute, but for some reason we
Yeah.
still can't hear her.
Yeah.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Kavita.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So yes, thank you, Dominic, for this wonderful, insightful session. A lot of people have already commented saying that how interesting, enlightening the session has been so far, especially the demo bit. We have a lot of participants who have, while registering, shared few questions. But to begin, I'm going to ask a couple of questions that emerged here in the chat box. The first one, Tarun, who's also been actively on the chat, sharing his own experience while he was going through this process. Our first question from him is how a coach coaching diversified group ensure group members open up to converse with each other with authenticity so that they can learn better from each other. How to build trust is among the yes.
That's a wonderful question. And I'll go back to what I shared earlier. Number one, if you can get to know your participants in advance, that's always helpful. So one thing that I have is a questionnaire that I send to everyone who is going to be in the group. And then the second thing I tend to do is to organize a very quick 20-minute one-on-one session where I get to know people before the group begins. Okay. In that session, I ask them, what's your previous experience with groups? Because a lot of people might be influenced by what they experienced before. If they didn't have a positive experience with groups, they might bring that into this session. So I make sure that I remove that by coaching them a little bit around, this is a new group, new experience, etc. The other thing that I'll do is I will ask them what it is that they want to take away from this group. And as I get to understand it, a lot of them start sharing stories. And so I'll say, this is a great story. I encourage you to share it in our first session as you get to know your group participants, because a lot of people think that trust comes before vulnerability. Actually, research shows that vulnerability is what helps build trust. So if you can have people coming into session one, create your norms so that there is a sense of confidentiality, all of that, and then get people to be as vulnerable as possible, as quickly as possible. I put a little post on LinkedIn the other day around that. So if you find me on LinkedIn, you might find that post. But bring vulnerability straight away, go deep, ask questions. I didn't know Salva, Vibhu, and Cyrus today, and I had them do this deep visualization that brought us straight down into the grounding of the topic. So create deep connections as quickly as possible.
That was wonderful, Dominic. In fact, that couple of process really helped, like questionnaire and having that one-on-one session before actually entering a group coaching program. So that's great. Another, a follow-up here is that what should be the duration of a group coaching session? This was coming to us from Manu Chhabra.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it really depends on how many people are in the group. So I like that there are no more than 8 people in the group, so that there really is enough time for everyone to share. What I have found is that if I'm in person, I can do up to 2 hours with a nice 10-minute break in the middle. If I'm online, I tend to do 90 minutes maximum because it's hard otherwise. So it depends on how many people are in the group. It depends on the type of group that it is. So what is it about? Sometimes an hour might be enough. For me, 90 minutes tends to be the sweet spot.
Manu has, that's great. Manu has one more question here. Is if a common theme is looking difficult or is taking time, in your experience, could each coachee have their own session objective work? I think the whole common it is the question. Yes.
Yeah, I think it can. However, if you think of a one-on-one session, sometimes it might take 20 minutes for someone to really pin down what they want to take away from the session. And it's worth spending that time with them to dig in, to really go deeper, because that process really allows them to have clarity as to what they want. Now, if we have a group, we want this group to be cohesive. We want them to work together and we want them to be able to support each other. So even if it takes a little bit longer to get to that theme, I would encourage you to keep digging, because that conversation itself will be extremely valuable for people. It'll help them to get clarity around what they want and how they can support each other.
Oh, nice. But so there are a lot of questions that we had already written down. And, but I'm going to do this one last just because of shortage of time. Here, Tushima, who's our president at ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter, she has a question. What about group coaching do you find most challenging, Dominique?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are many things that I still found challenging. I think I would say one of the things that I still find most challenging is when I am not the person to curate the groups. So if I create groups with my own clients, then I know who's in the group. But sometimes if I'm a contractor for a company and they put the groups together, I think what I find most challenging is if I don't have an opportunity to educate in advance, then people come in and it takes time out of the coaching moment to really help them understand what coaching is and how to show up in a coaching session. I think those basics are so important. So when people are coming in and they, we're all coaches, we know people come in with this idea of coaching as, you're going to tell me what to do. And so that's how they come to the coaching sessions, and they expect me, the coach, the group coach, to tell everyone what they should do with their lives or their career, or, and that's not how it works. So I think what I find really challenging is when the expectations have not been set well at the offset of a meeting.
Fantastic.
I am okay to stay on for an extra 5 minutes or so if you all are okay. So I just want to put that out there.
I think we are okay with because.
Because there's a lot that's going to happen. Shripad, I think Dominique did mention that 8 is the size that she feels is ideal, right? Dominique, that's what you mentioned.
I think I'll say 8 is my max. 6 is my magic number.
Okay, great, yes, that's I think from the question answer session, because if we start, then it will be.
In any case, we have exceeded 3 minutes. Thank you so much, Dominique, for graciously answering all the questions, and thank you, Kavita.
Absolutely.
We'll quickly launch the feedback poll. Dave, if you could just put it on the chat. The request, everybody to.
Yes, I would just give me a second. There's some technical glitch on account of which the feedback poll is not getting launched. But I'll share the CCU link upfront right away.
Sure. So like I mentioned earlier, that just write your correct name and also share your email address so that it can be posted to you. Yes, Dominique, you were saying something. Sorry,
I'm just going to say, I'm going to put in the chat our YouTube channel, because there are a few questions that were asked previously that are answered through some of our videos on our YouTube channel. So,
wonderful.
Just an extra resource.
Sure.
That's cool.
Okay. Dave, are you putting up the feedback?
I have put up the CCU poll up front.
Yes.
I'm just trying to work that out. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah. And we are also sharing the PDF file of your presentation, which has all the steps that you mentioned.
So request participants to please share your feedback so that we can bring in some meaningful content for you all and sessions for you all. So just stay for a bit and answer those questions for us.
So I'm first attaching the PDF document that was shared by Dominique.
Sure.
And I'm always happy to be in touch with people. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm always excited to connect with other coaches. So feel free to reach out.
Sago, I think there is some problem with that link.
Can I try
it's
this?
not going through.
Yeah.
Can I try?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
can I try to launch it? Yeah.
Yes, Kavita, just please try to check it out.
Yeah, I just launched it.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank
Please
you, Kavita,
make-
for putting it up. So while Kavita has put up the feedback poll, so we need to do a word storm for Dominique. Can people share what is that one thing that they're taking away from this session today?
And as people are doing that, I'd love to invite you all on our website under events. You'll see that on September 8th, I believe, we're offering a co-coaching, a group coaching demo with my partner, Maribel Alaman. And so if any of you, I know it'd be rather late for you. I think we start at 11 a.m. Eastern. So a couple of hours later than today. But if you are free, it's free to join. It's open to all, and it'll be a longer group coaching demo with a debrief at the end. So feel free to join us if you'd like to.
Some really
Interesting.
yeah, very nice.
So, Dave, can I end the poll? How does this work?
Yeah, just stop the poll from your side.
Yes. And the report will be generated.
Yeah, that I'll take care at the back.
Thank
Not to worry.
you.
You can share the result if you want.
Can I? Okay.
Yeah. So it's okay. Maybe we can share it with her. So thank you, Dominique. I know we have exceeded by 10 minutes. So thank you so much for being there with us and answering all the questions. And
of course,
I will definitely view the YouTube resources that you've shared with us for more learning.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much for having me. Thank you for all the questions, and thank you so much to our participants in the coaching session. So appreciate you all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dominique.
Thank you so much, Dominic.
Thank you all.